everybody. Welcome to Under the Arch Sports. I'm Eric Hobbs.
And I'm David Woldingen.
And today we're going to talk about the St. Louis Cardinals and are they really doing any better than anybody expected? Before we get into that, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and find us on Facebook and Instagram. Guys, we're just about to 900 subscribers. I want you to be number 900, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Anyway, David, the Cardinals are sitting here at 11-8 as we film this, with a game going on as we film this. They're 2 games back of the Brewers, sitting at 14-7 as we're filming. What do you think of the Cardinals so far?
Honestly, this is about what I expected from them based off of the roster and kind of what we saw last year as well. Pitching seems to be inconsistent. They've had their good moments and bad moments. Batting also started off tearing the cover off the ball. We have a few players who are off to a slow start, but for the most part, they've come back to earth and they faced some really good pitching too, which is part of it. But honestly, they're about what I expected, a little above average.
Yeah, I think you mentioned good pitching that the Cardinals have faced, but these are pitchers on bad teams. So far, the Cardinals have played Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Miami. That right there is basically half the schedule. Arizona, they're currently missing a series with Arizona. They're no good. So I think that's a part of why the Cardinals have looked good at times so far. And then you saw them against legitimate competition against the Mets. And those first 2 games, they looked like they didn't belong on the same field, if you want my opinion on it. Milwaukee, they did get the split on the road, to be fair. But, yeah, I agree with your assessment that this is a team that is a little bit above average. They will do well against the bad teams and get smoked against the league's best, I think. And it's just inconsistent performance all around. I think a perfect example is a guy like Steven Matz. His first outing of the season was a complete faceplant. Then the next 2 starts, he was super. And then his last one, he just imploded against the Mets. I think that type of inconsistent performance leads to a team that one day looks great and then the other can't score against anybody.
You could potentially say the same thing about Dakota Hudson.
Yeah.
Granted, he's coming off Tommy John, so he's still trying to find it anyway. So we kind of expected that out of him. However, his last 2 outings, he's looked fairly good in. My biggest issue right now is the pitchers are not going deep enough. Our bullpen is taxed. You can see it lately when they get into a game. I mean, they're just gassed. They've been used a lot. We got to get more out of our starting pitching.
Yeah. Wainwright, except for 1 start, been great. Miles Mikolas, my gracious. This is the 2018 Miles Mikolas for the most part this season. So he's doing his part. I also think part of the issue is too many guys off to really bad starts offensively. Taking a look at the Cardinals lineup. You have Paul Goldschmidt was off. He got off to his traditional horrible start, although he might be coming out of that now. His average is up to 282, just got his first homer of the year. So he may be getting back to being regular Goldie, which would be sorely needed. And part of the reason is that's so important is because Dylan Carlson, Tyler O'Neill, Paul DeJong, all doing nothing. Even Harrison Bader's batting just 250.
Let's not forget the terrible start Yadi's had. Granted, he's still trying to get back to game form because he missed some of spring training.
Right.
Again, the last couple of games, he seems to have come alive. However, again, just atrocious start for him as well.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Paul DeJong, though. We have a major issue going on with him at shortstop. He's not producing. I mean, he's just an average shortstop. I wouldn't call him much more than above.
Yeah, it's not like they're holding on to him in the lineup just to get his defense. His defense is serviceable.
How long do you give him? Would be my question before you start looking into AAA, because you have Nolan Gorman who's tearing the cover off the ball
Yes,
down.
he is.
Like how long can you keep him down there before you start moving people around? And do you even consider moving Edmund over to shortstop and bringing Nolan Gorman up to second base?
Yeah, that's something that the longer the longer DeJong struggles, particularly if Edmundo Sosa can't pick up the slack, I think the more realistic that becomes. I feel confident that Tommy Edman would, given the reps at shortstop, I think he could be adequate at shortstop. I'd be curious to see the arm strength, playing further away and all that, but I'd be willing to give him a shot, especially if Nolan Gorman comes up and, and he does what he's been doing at AAA. You don't want to rush him. Excuse me, but if the dude's ready, he's ready, right?
You also don't want to bring him up and sit him on the bench. He needs those reps as a young guy. So if you are going to bring him up, you need to make sure that he gets into the lineup. Now you can do that through various ways, especially now with the DH. But how long do the Cardinals give Sosa and DeJong a chance? DeJong has that contract, so I know they're going to give him a longer leash. We saw it with Carpenter. But when do you say enough is enough?
For me, I think your date where it's kind of the red line in the sand is going to be Memorial Day weekend. That's kind of, that's about a third of the way through the season. If he's still floating at or below 200 and it's Memorial Day weekend, the Cardinals played like 50, 60 games, I think you have to look at a move. Whether that's Sosa or trying Edman out over there, something would have to be done, I think, at that point.
The other curious thing coming up is at the end of this month, going into May, they actually lose 2 roster spots.
Yes.
They gave expanded rosters a chance mainly because they had a short spring training, so they wanted more pitchers on the roster, so pitchers didn't get burned out and they give them time to stretch out. It's going to be interesting to see the upcoming moves that the Cardinals make, who goes down, who comes up. There's going to be a lot of shuffling, I think, within the next week or so, just as they get things sorted out on the roster.
Yeah, I think part of what's going to determine how the season goes for the Cardinals here is pretty quick here. We ought to be hearing a status update on Jack Flaherty. And if they come out in the next week and say, all right, here's the plan, we're going to give him a couple of rehab starts, and in about 2 weeks, he should be good to go, I think the Cardinals are going to be okay. If they come back and say, you know what, we took a second look, reevaluated, and we need another 4 weeks of treatment, and then we'll look at rehab, Cardinals are going to be in real trouble. Like, have to make a move to get somebody, because this foolishness of Jordan Hicks going out there as an opener, it doesn't work. I give the Cardinals credit for trying to be creative, but also blame the Cardinals for having zero depth. I mean, I remember when the Cardinals signed Drew Verhagen, they said that, it was thought he would compete for a starting spot, and everybody who looked at the signing kind of laughed, except for the Cardinals. And now here he is, barely pitching and not in any way in contention for a starting spot, even when there's one open due to injury. I think we are seeing everybody was right and the Cardinals were wrong. And when I say the Cardinals, I mean the front office. They completely failed, and the lack of depth that this team has, I think, is really showing.
I think before they make a move, though, they'll have one other move by bringing up Matthew Liberatore, who actually is off to a pretty good start in Memphis. I do think there's a chance we might see him up there, especially if Flaherty is still not able to come back. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens down the road, though.
Yeah. Now, one final question here, David. Is there anything that you see with this team, the schedule or anything, that leads you to think this team is going to be a legitimate contender to win the National League Central?
Unless they get their pitching sorted out, in all honesty, no. The pitching for Milwaukee is just too good.
Yeah.
Again, our lineup is about what I expected it to be. I expect some of these guys who are major slumps to come out of it. But usually when that happens, other guys go into slumps. So, I mean, you kind of have that rotation of who's hitting well and who's not all year long. So I expect that our lineup is just going to continue kind of what it's been doing. Our biggest question mark has been and will always remain our starting pitching. And credit to our bullpen for keeping us in some of these games because they've been doing really well. But again, how long is that going to last if your guys are only going 4 or 5 innings?
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. This team right now is not a legitimate threat to win the National League Central. And if they were to win a wild card, they're not a threat to make any noise in the postseason, at least not beyond making the division series. Maybe they make a wild card and win that first series, which great. That doesn't mean much of anything. Not to me anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Pitching wins playoff games. And right now, our best pitcher probably is Miles Michaelis. Credit to him too, by the way. He's been doing really good this year. I like to see it.
Yes.
Anyway, that's all we have for Under the Arch Sports. Thank you for watching.